forces in Chechnya. But the mood was to welcome former communist countries in, and Russia was admitted. Like every member, Russia signed up to the Convention of Human Rights, giving its citizens the protection of the court in Strasbourg and the right to petition it. Russia also promised to ratify Protocol 6, abolishing the death penalty. That still hasn't happened. In April 2000, the Council's Parliamentary Assembly lost patience, faced with what its fact-finding mission called serious violations of human rights in Chechnya. By a slim majority, the Assembly voted to suspend Russia's voting rights. British member David Russell-Johnston led the call.
Let us not leave behind only empty declarations and speeches.
Voting rights were restored a year later, but today Lord Russell-Johnston says it may be time to take action against Russia again, not just because of continuing worries in Chechnya, threats to freedom of the press, but also the recent presidential elections.
If you think about the last election, where the only credible candidate was prevented from standing, then it really was a farce, the whole thing.
So is suspension of Russia's voting rights an option now?
I think it has got to the stage that it's very near to it, yes. I mean, this is a very old argument. If you're dealing with a relatively authoritarian regime, do you continue to talk, or do you disengage and say, look, so far but no further? And it's always difficult to decide what the right thing to do is. The argument, of course, is that if we, for example, suspended Russia, then we would lose any influence over her. But then you would say, well, what influence over her have we got?
But Russia's ambassador to the Council of Europe is bullish in defending his country's commitment to reform.
We do our utmost. The Russian Federation, let us put it, the democratic revolution in the Russian Federation is of 16 years old. We consider that we should not be criticized, but praised for what we've done during these 16 years. Show me any other country in Europe which, after practically 1,000 years of different ties of dictatorships or Imperial Russia or Soviet time, made such a progress to democracy, to rule of law, to democratic laws, to democratic electoral laws, and in all other aspects where we discuss in the Council of Europe and where we sometimes unjustifiably, sometimes justifiably criticized because of the lack of progress here and there, will reach this stage. We need a bit more time, and a new elected president, Mr. Medvedev, said it in very clear and simple language. This is the only way for the Russian society, and this way to stay with Europe, with European values, including democratic values. We'll continue our job. If somebody wants that we did it in a fortnight, we do not promise it. But sooner or later, will be, if not the model, but a very good democratic European state.
Russia is one of the Council of Europe's main paymasters. This is a cash-strapped institution, but its Secretary-General is quick to refute any connection with the fact that Russia has escaped suspension.
No, it does not come into play at all. I do not go soft on Russia because they are what is called a major contributor, any more than I'm soft on the United Kingdom, who pay exactly the same as Russia. And I often criticize things in the United Kingdom. Sometimes I criticize them perhaps very strongly because precisely I know the United Kingdom. I come from the United Kingdom. But of course, the abuses of human rights in Russia have often been much more serious than what happens in the United Kingdom. I simply draw attention to the fact there is no perfect democracy in Europe. There is no country with a perfect human rights record, and I criticize all abuses wherever they are. Whether a country is big or small, whether a country has a big population or a small population, whether a country is rich or not so rich, I treat them all the same.
In 2006, Russia held the chairmanship of the Council of Europe for 6 months. It was seen as a showcase for the country's democratic reforms, and Russia hosted an impressive number of events with the emphasis on European unity and social equality. A series of reports from the Council of Europe does paint a positive picture in some quarters. Legal reform, local democracy, and the creation of a number of ombudsmen for human rights, even in Chechnya, have all been cited as positive improvements. But at the Court of Human Rights, Russia still remains the country with the most complaints against it. And the failure to agree the so-called Protocol 14, reforms to clear the court's backlog, is a source of deep irritation to many here. Russia's ambassador says, though, there's no hidden agenda.
The 14th protocol is not only of the efficiency of the court. According to the court itself, if tomorrow the 14th protocol will be ratified, the efficiency of the court will not go up more than 18, 20, 22%. If we really want to do something for the efficiency of the court, the Russian Federation is ready to do its utmost, both on financial track and on organizational track. Regarding the 14th protocol, our MPs have a number of questions, unfortunately still not answered in satisfactory manner to make them vote for the ratification.
But the violation of human rights in the Caucasus and the failure of the Russian authorities to prosecute those responsible is a persistent accusation from the Council of Europe's Parliamentary Assembly.
Verwandte von mutmaßlichen Terroristen.
The relatives of alleged terrorists are being taken hostage. They're being threatened. They're being threatened with being shot if their relations don't give themselves up. These methods are wholly unacceptable. They're the kind of tactics that must be clamped down on by the Russian authorities. The second point, which gives rise to serious concern, is the fact that some applicants who've taken their cases to the European Court of Human Rights have also been threatened. Some have been murdered, and some of their family members have disappeared since they lodged their applications with the court.
Membership of the Council of Europe gives countries an international respectability, and for many it's seen as the launchpad for closer relations with political institutions like the European Union and NATO. Russia's been no exception. But is the Council of Europe's failure to be tougher on the breach of core values just allowing it to keep that veneer of respectability?
I think more than a veneer, it gives them a mark which they have to come up to. The fact is that Russia has signed these agreements. And it gives us a legitimacy and a leverage on Russia to say, look, whether or not you're going to do the things you should be doing in the future is one thing, but you should honour your international commitments. And there are those, my old friend Russell-Johnston, who I greatly respect as one, who believes this is the moment to kick them out. On balance, I think it isn't. I think that the beneficial results of Russia and the leverage we are able to Russia, and incidentally to democratic forces in Russia, and the leverage we outside Russia can exercise on Russia by saying to them that they must honour the commitments which they've signed in due course under international treaty, is greater than the advantage we get in saying to them, time for you to leave.
Well, that's all from me and this special edition of The Record Europe from the Council of Europe in Strasbourg. Bye for now.